So in talking about organizing, recruiting, staffing, basically this is talking about finding the people who are going to staff your establishments, and then to some degree, we'll talk about training at another time, but it's helpful perhaps to think about maybe the difference between a task and a job. So a task, might be kind of a sequence of work. You do this, do this, do this. A job would be a series of related responsibilities or related tasks. Now, a job description would be those tasks and jobs written down, and then in addition you might have a job specification, which might identify skills or qualifications that you might need, licenses or physical requirements or things like that. And to figure these out, generally we're talking about doing some kind of an analysis, either from the bottom up or from the top down. And bottom up, when the organization already exists, you can kind of see how people are already doing things. So, how the employees are already doing their jobs, what shortcuts they take, what needs to happen. The top-down method, when you're creating maybe a new place, you've got, say, a mission statement, you've got your goals or objectives, and you have to examine those to figure out what you need to do and what tasks will accomplish that. So your tasks are going to vary from, establishment to establishment. Each place will have somewhat different jobs and tasks within that job. So, maybe you've got a broiler cook, and the tasks are taking care of the broiler, cooking the food exactly as ordered, broiling the chicken to specification, cleaning the broiler, and maybe making a prep list, right? So those might be the related tasks. When we're talking about making a job description, really be careful to describe the person, not, excuse me, big no-no. Describe the job, not the person. Very often, particularly in small establishments, jobs get created around somebody's particular capabilities. They can do this, plus this, plus this, plus this. And so when you go to replace that person, sometimes you find you might need to hire 2 or 3 people to replace the one person because they don't have all the same skills, unless you've got a job description. We're not going to necessarily think about describing in any kind of fine detail. This is a short, simple, to the point kind of a thing. If you're using any technical jargon, explain that, but make the description detailed enough to do all the aspects of the job, along with all the essential functions and any outcomes that you're expecting, right? And so job description, you're outlining everything that you expect the person who gets this job to do. Simple enough, right? From there, you may have a job instruction sheet, something that we can think of maybe as a training manual. So after you've analyzed your tasks, you break those tasks down into a sequence, a list of the work steps, if there's a natural cycle to that. So that you can then pass that on to your people. All right. Recruitment basically just means how you're finding people, where the prospective people are coming from. Obviously, you've got to follow state and federal laws in this. And then you're thinking about whether or not you're doing any kind of testing during that. And certainly you're going to be interviewing. Hopefully, if you are a prospective employee, you are interviewing your employer just as much as he or she is interviewing you. Selection, this is the hard one. You've got ideal, hopefully you have ideal candidates, but everybody's got their own ideals, and we're going to be talking about that in the discussion forum. You may have personal grooming standards. You may have, ideas about working as part of a team. You may have ideas about potential substance abuse. you're going to have to find your own way here, and it's going to get harder and harder. I've posted some articles about the growing trends towards eliminating tipping, the current shortage of cooks for our kitchens. It's going to be tougher and tougher to find people and to get them to do what we would like them to do in our kitchens. Now, certainly some good sources of potential people would be current employees, assuming that they're good. Definitely Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of the social media services. Certainly to some degree, employment agencies, state employment agencies, schools, obviously. Your vendors, your customers, churches, youth groups, fraternities, sororities, classified ads, I guess. They're really, that's kind of going away these days. Bulletin boards, job fairs, local partnerships. However you're finding these people. Some people will go and talk up their places when they're going out to eat in other people's restaurants. I think that's kind of poor form. But, I will say if somebody, gives great service, I will say, hey, you've done a really fabulous job. If you're ever looking, give me a call. I'm not necessarily going to go in and I won't go in and try to poach people from other restaurants because I think it's tacky. But, mentioning that you did a really good job and I was impressed, maybe not. I don't know. It's always nice to let somebody know they're doing a good job. So persons come in, you're interviewing them, you'll have your own set of questions. We used to give people a brown paper bag and say, tell me everything I need to know about you based on this. Our application form is still very sparse, let's say. Not a whole lot of questions on there. I prefer to get a sense of the person by sitting down with them, see how I feel about them. In the case of cooks, I'll usually have them come in and work for a couple of days, or not a couple of days, a day, and see how we fit together, whether this is a situation that's going to work out or not. For waiters, bussers, it's a little bit of a different process. But, we've got kind of a standard set of questions that we ask. But some of those that we do not ask are anything about marital status, age, national origin, family relationships, any mental or physical handicaps, religion, anything like that. Now, sometimes, we do need to know certain things. So while we can't ask somebody's age if we're interviewing for a bartender, let's say, we can ask, are you old enough to serve alcohol? That age is 21 and over. Okay, but we can't ask, how old are you? You can ask things like, are there any things that would prevent you from doing this job? And that even gets a little bit tricky when you're asking, like, if weekend work is required. There are some religions that require people to observe their religion on one of the weekend days. It's even getting tricky to ask, we require that you work on weekends. Is there any reason why you couldn't do that? Certainly check people's references, although this is less valuable than it used to be. People are very reluctant to give negative references. The best they will say is they're not eligible for rehire, and that pretty much tells you everything that you need to know. Hopefully if somebody is giving you references to check, they're going to be enthusiastic and really recommend the person. So recruitment is tough. It's going to get tougher in the coming years. This is good news for those of us who are on the other side of that table, who are looking for the jobs. You should be able to, within a certain sense, write your own tickets. But when you're staffing your own kitchens, it's going to be a different story for you. So head on over to the discussion forums and participate there and read the links in this week's module as well as reading your text.